Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and for the latest updates, information, and picks, you can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Wednesday, August 17th, 2022, and this episode covers all of today's Major League Baseball games. In case you're new here, I've built a mathematical model for win probability and totals using hitter and pitcher projections I've created along with weather data, in order to make one moneyline pick on every game that's played 7 days a week, though there are no Sunday shows. That doesn't mean that I recommend you the same, as my goal in this episode is to share key information about today's games, give you a few things to think on, and explain why the model or I like or don't like a certain play in order for you to come up with picks that you are comfortable with. I never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with me or against me before investing your hard-earned money. And as I go through my plays, remember that there are no locks in gambling, so what I'll give you are loves, likes, and leans to indicate my confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. And as always, please remember that good and bad variance will occur, so as much as I'd like to see it will be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Yesterday, kind of a ho-hum day, slightly up on all plays. A lot of one-run games yesterday in baseball, which is always makes for things tense. The Diamondbacks just couldn't get it done for us last night. One-run lead going into the ninth, and then leaving the ninth, losing by one. Extra inning game in Milwaukee on the right side of that one is kind of a mixed bag. We talk about good and bad variance. It was kind of just, got some one-run games, lost some one-run games. It's kind of the way it goes on average. It's, some days you get all the good luck, some days you get all the bad luck issues. Like I said, kind of a mixed bag. Hopefully we'll have some better luck today. And just as a reminder, and Jake mentioned this, Monday, but we've got those college football episodes, those 3 preview shows. If you haven't watched those, check those out. There's a whole page on the website for those, and we'll have a week 0 college football show coming up. Should be out Monday morning for you, so we're within a week of having our first college football show of the new season. I can't believe it's already that time. Going from talking about baseball to football, I'm going to feel like, what's this brown object? It's going to be a whole weird experience, but I'm really looking forward to college football. I love that. Cousin Jared, I know, is, listening to this, probably, chomping at the bit, waiting to get to that. But we're still in baseball season for now. Before we get to today's baseball game, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you're already up, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And the only way, assuming that you turn notifications on, to ensure you don't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or that college football content I was just talking about that this channel provides. Share with a friend. Hit me up on Twitter. Drop a comment from YouTube. I love those and try to respond to as many as I can. And again, we've also partnered with Horse Racing Today. If you like to play the ponies, you can find their stuff at horseracingtoday.net. They've got a team of 5 with over 125 years of combined experience in handicapping horse races. There's an angle they don't know or bias they can't identify. Check out their YouTube shows or the website. The links are in the description. Got a lot of games spread out today. Should be a nice day to watch a lot of baseball. We've got morning baseball if you're not in the Eastern time zone. 12:35 Eastern, first pitch, Phillies at the Reds. We've been on the Phillies a lot lately. I think they've been underpriced and they've been undervalued, and it's mostly worked out for us. Today, I think the price is a whole lot more reasonable and maybe actually favors the Reds a little bit. First time they've kind of said there's not really a big edge on the Phillies here. I think the main reason for that today comes from the fact that the model really likes Nick Lodolo, gives him a fairly similar rating to Ranger Suarez. Talk about Suarez, a guy who's pitched really well lately. So he's a guy who's not one that you want to fade, heavily. In this one here, I'll take the Reds at plus 145. It's a C-grade pick. Model says it should be 144. So the model says maybe a tiny little bit of an edge, maybe worth a look. And that's kind of exactly how I see it. I think the Reds are worth a look here. Not a heavy play. If there's more Phillies money that comes in on this, you really might consider the Reds a little bit heavier. If this jumps up another nickel or dime, then it starts to become B-grade territory where the Reds are really worth an investment here. The Phillies are still more likely to win this game. The model thinks they win at 59% of the time. But again, if we can start getting prices in the mid plus 155s, now that becomes a reasonable investment. The Reds have a chance in this one, again, because of Nick Lodolo. As much as I like Ranger Suarez, Lodolo not as bad as that 4.72 ERA. The underlying metrics say it should be right around 4, and he projects to be about as good as Suarez going forward. A pair of lefties here that are both pretty good. Reds offense kind of right-handed heavy right now. Votto, I think, is the only left-handed hitter of, really left in that lineup, it seems like that matters. Chrissy might be the only hitter that matters in general, to be honest. But the Reds get a little bit of a boost facing a lefty here. Again, their relievers are terrible, and the Phillies relievers are pretty good. But on the road, day game here, Lodolo could control this game a little bit. I think the Reds got a chance, so we'll take a flyer with him at plus 145. It should be a nice day. If you're in the area, you can get out to the ballpark here. It should be upper 70s to start, around 80 degrees to close, and the winds will be blowing across. You got two pitchers that I like here, and so in general, that would lead you to think under. The issue is in that ballpark, there's always runs aplenty. Model says 8.8, total of 8.5. I think it's a pretty well-priced total. I think this game is pretty well pegged just in general. I think this is about where I'd have it if I were to make the line myself, maybe again a little bit more friendly to the Reds, but not by much. Like I said, I think at this point it's worth a look, but it's not an investment that I'm really loving at this point. Reds have a chance, but I'm really looking for some bigger odds before I get more excited about this play, because Ranger Suarez is pretty good. And this Phillies team, like I've been saying for a while now, is decent, not one you want to fade too much. Again, the Reds aren't very good either, but again, the Lodolo can keep them in this game, so I think the Reds may be worth a flyer. Again, a lot depends on the price here. I like this as you get more into the 150s, a lot more than if you're down more like plus 140. 105 Eastern Start Time, Cubs at the Nats. Low 80s for the entirety of this game. Slight breeze blowing in, around 5 miles an hour. Drew Smyly versus Corey Abbott. Abbott gets one of the worst ratings in the starting pitcher database. Not good. Underlying metrics worse. Not a guy who's going to give you a lot of length, mostly just a reliever. So at this point, we kind of expect him to go like 3-ish innings, turn it over to. And that's bullpen that isn't bad necessarily, or it's not terrible. But I mean, you're not starting off on the right foot for the Nationals. Of course, they don't have a lot of good pieces. Pretty bad offense as well. Cubs offense closer to average. Relievers now hurting as they've traded a few away. Drew Smyly pretty average. Other than the Cubs relievers, they're a pretty average team. Their relievers really hurt them at this point. Smyly, 3.69 ERA, though I don't think he's that good. Underlying metrics have him a little bit higher. Again, another game that I think is priced really well here to start us off. Model says Cubs minus 143. I'll take the Cubs at minus 151, but it's not a price I like. I just can't get excited about the Nats at plus 139. Model says plus 143 would be your break-even point on the Nats. I still probably wouldn't take them there, especially with Abbott on the mound. Again, the Nats relievers aren't terrible, and they actually rate out better than the Cubs. But the issue is when you're expecting your starter to go 3 innings and turn it over, and it's mostly a bullpen game, and you already are below average, there's a lot of guys coming in that are going to be rough. And at some point, this Cubs offense, which again is fairly average, maybe slightly below average, but I mean, they still, without trading a couple of their guys, I mean, their hitters aren't bad. They're not great, obviously, but their offense isn't terrible. They're going to score some runs at some point. And so it's not a game that it's almost like that first game, except the odds are just not quite good enough. It's like, if I got bigger odds, I take a chance on the Nats here and say maybe they can hang in there. Smiley's not that great, but I think Smyly is just that much better than on average what the Nats are going to throw. We just hope the Cubs relievers aren't too prominently involved. Minus 151, though, is just not really a great number either. So it's a game I think is pretty well priced. If I get this around minus 140, I'm starting to get excited about it. But at minus 151, only a C-grade pick. I'd rather be on the Cubs than the Nats at the prices we're seeing right now. But it's not one that I think offers a lot of long-term value because I think it's priced fairly well. Game the model says the total should be 9.3. Actual total is 9. So the model thinks the total's priced pretty well. Also, tougher sledding here early on. The game's priced fairly well, it appears, according to the model. One other game at this 1 o'clock Eastern time slot. It'll be around 80 degrees for the entirety of this one in Minnesota. A chance of rain more towards the later part of the afternoon. Probably not going to affect things too much, though. A slight breeze may be blowing out, maybe across, but it should stay at 5 miles an hour under. So not really much of a wind effect here in this one. Daniel Lynch versus Tyler Mahle. Lynch, 4.52 ERA. Underlying metrics say maybe it should be a little bit better than that. He's an average, maybe slightly below average pitcher. You can call him average, say it's rounding error. Mahle, on the other hand, is above average, a pretty good pitcher. 4.26 ERA, but that's inflated because he pitched so many of those games in Cincinnati. Again, a huge hitter-friendly ballpark. Advanced metrics say it should be more in the upper 3s. Pretty big edge here for the Twins with regards to the starting pitcher. Obviously a huge edge with regards to the relievers and a huge edge with regards to the offense here. The Twins should definitely be favored. The only question is by how much. Model says it should be minus 204, so I'll take minus 193 with a B grade pick. It's a high price, but I think as long as the number starts with 1, I think it's a safe investment. I think it's a solid investment. I think it's a smart investment. Safe, probably not a good word to use there. If you're getting the low 2s, it's probably still the side I would be on, but it's one that, again, the premium just starts to get uncomfortable, and that's where you start scaling back a little bit. But at minus 193, it's a B grade pick. I think the Twins are the side to be on here, and I don't think you're paying too big of a price. So I'm okay laying a little bit of the lumber here with the Twins. If it drops any, now you're talking about A grade territory, but at 193, it's just too steep to talk about an A grade. Twins are the right side. Price is okay. So that's why I said I like it. That's why I have loves, likes, and leans, right? I like this pick. I don't love it. I like it. I think the Twins are good. I just always have to be careful with these bigger odds. It's not one that, again, I love, because laying a price near minus 200 is never exciting unless the model says it should be 250 or something crazy like that. Model says to go over on this game. Model says the total should be 8.9. The actual total is 8. That kind of makes sense. The Royals have been more of an over team. Twins offense is pretty good. I think the biggest question here is how many runs can the Twins score off of Daniel Lynch? That's, to me, the big question. So maybe you can isolate Twins team total over. Problem is it's probably going to be pretty high. And so the model thinks the Royals offense isn't bad enough, and maybe they get a few runs off the Twins. So the model says go over, thinks it's maybe a 6-3 type game. Again, thinks more like 9 runs rather than 8. So I'm going to keep an eye on there with a total here. Model thinks there might be a little bit of an edge there. And again, I like the Twins here to get it done as long as your number stays the starting number stays under 2. So the 307 window, we've got one game at this time slot, Orioles and the Blue Jays. I don't know what else to say about these two teams. I mean, I've said it for weeks now. The Blue Jays are the most overpriced team in baseball as of late. The Orioles are pretty solid. The Orioles got it done yesterday again as big plus plus dogs here. I don't know. I mean, at some point the price is going to catch up. I think the price is catching up a little bit today. So at some point, again, this is why I made the comment. This is why I built the model, because you can't just keep rolling with what's working. You can for a while. The question is, when do you kind of start slowing down a little bit here? A lot of things the price has caught up a little bit here today. I'm still on the Orioles on this one, but it's an interesting case because it's two pitchers that the model has tended not to like, but I think are better than the model indicates. I think the model kind of struggles a little bit with the guys like Voth and Stripling who have kind of pitched in relief and don't quite go as long. It's a little bit harder to pick up the exactly what's happening with some of these guys. And so, again, the model doesn't like Voth at all. And, of course, he does have a 5.34 ERA, but the underlying metrics do say it should be in the upper 3s. So I don't think Voth is quite as bad as that 111 rating the model gives him. Stripling has a 3.16 ERA, and the underlying metrics say it should be that much worse than that, and gives him a 98 rating. And I'm looking at that saying, I think maybe it should be higher or better than that, lower than that, maybe more like a 94, So, again, two guys that I think the model just isn't as high on as it should be. So the model says total of 9.8, and I probably would go over 9 because these two teams tend to combine for a lot of runs, but it's not a quick as an over as you might assume, just because, again, I don't think these two pitchers are that bad. And so if you consider that the model doesn't like either one of these pitchers as 9.8, if you kind of factor that in, now the model would probably get you a lot closer to that total of 9. So I think 9's not a bad total for this one. Again, I might still lean over, but it's not quite as much of a, easy overplay. See, and I kind of like both of these pitchers. I think both of them have some upside. Talked about got the Orioles relievers, did it again for us last night and are really good. Blue Jays relievers, kind of meh. But, of course, that offense for them is a lot better than the Orioles offense. Again, facing a righty. We keep talking about the Blue Jays keep facing righties. And when they face a lefty, all of a sudden, now I feel like it's going to turn around for them. But they keep facing righties, and their offense just isn't that great against righties. Good, not great. Model says Blue Jays minus 159. So it says the Blue Jays should be favored in this game. It says it's priced pretty well. I'll take a flyer on the dog here just in a game that I think is priced pretty accurately, but one I don't think offers quite the edge that the Orioles have offered to us in the first 2 games of the series. In the first 2 games of the series, I said it's Orioles or pass, but I really like the Orioles. In today's game, I think either side's fine. I don't think either side really offers an advantage. I'll take a shot with the Orioles here at these prices. If the numbers shift a little bit, again, before starting lineups are announced, if a lineup's announced and then we've got some multiple key guys out, maybe that's a little bit of a difference. But otherwise, at this point, unless the number moves, I think it's priced pretty well. I'll take a chance that the Orioles can get it done again. But I think it's priced pretty well. The Blue Jays should be favored in this game. Probably not by quite this much, but it's not nearly as much of an overprice as they've been in previous games. Speaking of teams that the books are finally adjusting to, we got the Mariners, another A-grade winner for us last night. For the most part, a team that continues to be underpriced, and we have profit. I mean, the Mariners, I feel like, are putting some kids through college at this point. I mean, they have been a cash cow for us. But today's situation's a little bit different. I think finally for like maybe like the third time in the last month, I look at this line and I say, actually, I think it's a little bit too steep on the Mariners. I like George Kirby. I think he's a pretty good pitcher. That 3.39 ERA is no mirage. That's about how good he is. And it's not that I'm a huge fan of Touki Toussaint. Now, he does have a 2.70 ERA. It's only in 13 innings. The underlying metrics say it really should be more in the mid-4. So it's not like he's a great pitcher. He gets a fairly below-average rating. It's just this price is really steep. Mariners better on offense, better in relief, better at starter. Absolutely, the Mariners should be favored in this game. But on the road, a price like minus 200 is just too steep, in my opinion. As much as I love this Mariners team, y'all know I've loved them. I've loved backing them. But here, I think it's Angels or pass. Now, if you say, hey, the Mariners have been too good to me, I'm not going to fade them. Respect, 100%. But I think it's Angels or pass in this one. I think that price is just too much. It doesn't mean the Mariners don't win. Again, they should win. They should be favored. It's just the premium, again, for one of the few times in the last month and a half or so, it's just a way too steep on the Mariners. Maybe they're finally realizing this team's pretty dang good, like I've been saying for months now. I'm not really sure if it's a trend that we will continue to see. I hope not. It's been a lot of fun backing them. But today, again, this price is too steep. Model says it should be Mariners minus 174. It's still a pretty hefty favorite on the road to be minus 174 on the road. But that means there's a little bit of value here on the Angels at plus 179. I'll take them with the C-grade pick. Not going to go too heavy on it. Edge isn't big enough. And this Angels team is still terrible, but I mean, they got a chance in this one. They're, and those odds are just way too high. So again, Angels or pass. I hate not being on the Mariners, but again, at some point you have to recognize. I assume, I'm hoping, I'm thinking if you looked at this line before anything and you just saw that price, you might have thought to yourself, that line seems a little bit high. I mean, that's kind of, I looked up, like, that seems a little bit high. And if you thought that, you were smack on it. It's pretty high. Mariners really good, but I mean, that's just a really high number. Maybe they're finally getting the respect they deserve. It'll be sad if that's the case, but again, we've profited so much off of it. We've got a lot of good memories there at least. And again, the model thinks go over, and partially because it's going to be a really warm one today in Anaheim. Model says a total of 9.3. Actual total is 8.5, and I tend to agree that I think this total should be 9. Kirby is good. Toussaint should give up some runs. I mean, the Mariners will score some runs in this game. Question is, can the Angels keep up? But it's a warm day. The ball is going to fly out of there. It's going to be in the mid to upper 80s for the most part of this game, and the winds will be blowing out consistently at around 10 miles an hour for this one. Night game, the wind tends to die down as the night goes on, tends to cool off a little bit. But again, because it's a day game there, it'll stay warm. Wind will be blowing out the whole time. Again, not too strong, not gonna make a pop fly become a home run. But with the warmer there, the ball's gonna carry a little bit of wind blowing out. Warning track fly balls are not going to turn into home runs. Maybe some routine outs, maybe turn into doubles with that extra bit of carry. So model thinks 9 to 9.5 is a better total. So model would say go over 8.5 in this one. Expects the warmer weather to create a few more runs in that one. One other game in that 4 o'clock Eastern time slot, Padres at the Marlins. Got it done with the Marlins yesterday. I feel anytime you win with the Marlins, you just feel like it's your lucky day, right? The Marlins are just so terrible. Kids got 4 runs yesterday. First time they've scored more than 3 runs in, I don't know, probably since like 1912, it seems like. Today, they'll throw another really good pitcher out there, Pablo Lopez. Talk about the Marlins. The starting pitchers are their absolute strength. A lot of really good starting pitchers, and that's all they've got. We've loved Pablo, of course. 3.55 ERA, that's pretty accurate. He's a really good pitcher. Not great, but still good. Clevenger, on the other hand, projects to be about league average, so edge the Marlins here starting pitcher-wise. Clevenger does have a 3.47 ERA, but the underlying metrics say it should be in the low 4s. The model really likes Pablo more than Clevenger, so something to keep an eye on there. The model thinks that there's a starting pitcher edge here, that if you look deeper than just the ERA, that Pablo has been the better pitcher, projects to be the better pitcher than Clevenger. Of course, bullpens, Padres bullpen kind of average to meh. Models always like the Padres bullpen a little bit more than I think it should. Marlins bullpen, though, not good. Saw that last night. Gave us a little bit of a scare. Offensively, of course, Padres have a massive edge there. Again, the Padres should be favored in the question is just by how much. Model says it should be Padres minus 121, so it says they should be slight road favorites. So I'll take the Marlins at plus 132 with the B grade picks. Decent edge here, worth a look here for the Marlins. Padres, again, overpriced. Doesn't mean they don't win. It just means that they're overpriced again and not a good long-term investment. If you've been back in the Padres, every once in a while you'll win, but you'll lose way more than you'll win. And the model says it's the same story today here in a game that is coin toss-ish, but edge Padres, and plus 132 is just enough to say that it's worth a look. Game that has a total of 7. Model says 7.9. It's always tough with the Marlins, though. I mean, they got 4 runs yesterday, but in general, they've been scoring, they've been scoring 3 or less, and even 3 has been hard for them to get. So model says over. Model says that the streak of the Marlins not scoring any runs, that their offense is bad, but that's kind of not really sustainable, and that makes sense. No team ever does that bad that consistently. So the model says, hey, this total is being driven down because the Marlins offense has been so bad, but it's kind of just been some bad luck, and they are bad, but maybe not that bad. So that's kind of where the model's getting that number. So I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just letting you know that the model is trying to tell us, and I'm not saying that, again, you should play this or not, but the model's trying to tell us that, hey, maybe this total's driven down a little bit by an overreaction to this incredible run of bad offense the Marlins have had, but in general, we don't quite project it to be that bad going forward. That's kind of the model's take on this total. Again, thinks it should be a little bit higher. I kind of tend to agree. I kind of think 7.5 would make more sense. I think 7 runs is very possible for this game. Again, Clevenger is just average. I think there's a perception that he's really good, and the model doesn't think so. The model just says average. Obviously, Pablo is good, but the Padres offense is just as good as well. Feels like a game that's 3-3 late, just like yesterday's was. And if it's 3-3 late, going over 7, we at least get the push. And again, 3-3 late, give me plus 132. I'll take my chances. Marlins bullpen's not good, but neither is the Padres, and we'll see what happens. So it's kind of the hope there. If we can get to that 3-3 late spot, we got a shot with the dog here at decent odds in Miami. To the night games, 7:05 Eastern, Rays at the Yankees. I don't know what to make of this Yankees offense. It's not as simple as they've lost Carpenter, because that's as good of a season as he's had. It's not just it's Stanton. I know they're down 2 hitters right now, but 2 hitters shouldn't make the difference from them being one of the best offenses in the league to Marlins territory of late. It's kind of confusing. I think it's a little bit of bad luck. Maybe it's a little bit of pressing. And that's the tough thing is, we all know that sometimes baseball players, when they get in slumps, when the team's in a slump, you start thinking to yourself, I've got to hit the 3-run home run. I don't care if there's nobody on base. I'm hitting the 3-run home run to get us out of this type stuff, right? And you start pressing a little bit. And so maybe there's a little bit of that happening. I'm not really sure. The Yankees offense is still good. They still have a lot of talent here, and the model knows who's out. The model still says the offense should be doing better than it is. So statistically, I just cannot come up with a reason why they're this bad. Again, the components they have should still be better than they are, but right now they're clearly struggling. There's no way to deny that. So they've let us down here the first 2 nights. I'm on the Yankees again. In general, I've said, hey, if there's a Yankees edge, we want to jump all over it. Today, I'm tempering that back, and I've only got a B play on the Yankees here at minus 132. Model says it should be minus 136. I will say the model really liked Corey Kluber last time out and kind of swung around on him, and that wasn't a good thing. And Domingo Germán, the model's really down on, but I don't think he's quite as bad as the model thinks. So I think that there's a little bit of a misrepresentation there, and I'm going to trust that this Yankees offense just won't continue to be this bad. They shouldn't be this bad. They still have good hitters in their lineup. That's the bottom line. They should be able to score runs, and I don't know. They're going to break out of it, right? We all know that they will break out of it at some point. They will start scoring runs again. We don't know when, and the probability that it's tonight is the same as it was last night. It's the same as it's tomorrow. I mean, who knows when it's going to happen? I'm just going to trust here that, again, the model knows who's in and out, and it still says that the Yankees offense is good and that the Yankees should be favored by more than this. So I'll take the Yankees at minus 132. It's a B grade play for me. I think it's worth a look. I'm not buying into any of the narratives around the team. I still think they're a solid team. I think it's about a wash with regards to the starting pitchers between these two guys. Relievers, I still like the relievers on the Yankees better, and I still like the offense from the Yankees more at home. I think 132 is a decent price. I'll be on the Yankees here. And Model says go over 8. Model says 8.5, but again, you have that big question mark about the Yankees offense that surrounds this whole game. What's going on with that offense? If you trust they can bounce back, again, Model thinks over's the look here. If you're scared of that offense, then you wouldn't agree with that. And I don't. It's not crazy. It's not a crazy take. That offense is scary right now, and I don't know when it's going to bounce back. But again, I'm just going to trust the model here and put my money where my mouth is and say Yankees are underpriced at minus 132, and it's worth a look tonight. It'll be low 70s tonight in New York. Winds will be blowing out about 5 miles an hour, so not much of a wind effect there. It's kind of an average night here in New York. Again, in a game that I think is a wash between the starting pitchers. Kluber's underlying metrics are pretty solid, but Herman historically has been decent enough. I think there's 2 decent starting pitchers. But again, I'll take the Yankees offense over the Rays, even though I know it's struggling right now. I think in general, I still think those hitters are better than the Rays hitters. 7-5 Eastern start time, Red Sox at the Pirates. Got that A-grade winner with the Red Sox yesterday. They put up 4 runs before you might have even turned the game on, and that was all they needed to win that one, so that was a lot of fun. Tonight, the price is a little bit more realistic. Model says it should be Red Sox minus 143, offering no edge to either side. I'll take a chance with the Pirates at plus 136. It's a well-priced game. To me, it's a stay away completely at these prices. If the number moves, now you're talking something different. I can see some Red Sox money coming in on this game and driving the price up here. And if you get bigger plus odds for the Pirates, they might be worth a look. The reason why, Randy Contreras for them, not a bad pitcher, 3.78 ERA. Now the underlying metrics say he's not that good, but he's very average. A young guy who's getting called back up here, got some potential to make a jump at some point. I don't know when that'll happen, whether it's going to be tonight we'll see it or whether it's next season, the year after. I mean, he's a young guy with a lot of potential. Decent pitcher, and he showed he's not one of those guys who has made no starts. He's coming up, and you don't know what you're going to get him. He's come up and pitched fairly well so far in his short big league career. So a decent pitcher here for the Pirates against Rich Hill for the Red Sox, and you never know what you're going to get here with him. And so for me, I look at it and I say, not knowing what you're going to get from Rich Hill, laying a big price like that doesn't mean they don't win, but it's just not really a play that I think I want to make. 4.75 ERA for Hill, underlying metrics say maybe a tad better, but I mean, he's just all over the place at this point in his career. You never know if his curveball is going to be there. It sounds like they're going to have Winkowski available in relief. Behind him was kind of the plan, was to piggyback him off of Hill. I didn't pay enough attention to that game. I don't even know if they used him last night. Maybe they did. I don't know. Someone else probably knows about this. I just know that was the plan initially. Again, I don't know if that went awry last night, but Winkowski's not any better. And there's a lot of relievers in that pen coming in behind Hill who weren't that good. They just don't have a lot of depth. Now, the backing guys have kind of sorted out and are decent, but I mean, you got to get to the 8th really at that point. And Hill's probably not going to give you 7. It's just an uncomfortable spot there. It's not that the Pirates are good. It's just, we talked about it yesterday. They're very bad, but facing a pitcher like Hill, they could score some runs. Contreras is decent enough. It's one of those that bad teams win some baseball games, and at home the Pirates, this is a type of game they could easily win, as opposed to last night's where I just thought there was some pretty big mismatches. Here it's I don't know. I'd rather have Contreras than Hill at this point. I'd rather take the starting pitcher for the Pirates. Now, it's the only thing I'd have of the Pirates, but they are home as well. And at some point, again, it's all about the price. 136 is a number I'll take here with a lean, but again, it's just not high enough for me to get really excited. If this number gets up, though, now we're talking about getting excited about the possibility of pulling for the underdog here. As it is, though, it's just not high enough. Main thing is, it's just hard to lay a steep price with Rich Hill. That's my biggest thing, and maybe you feel more comfortable with him, but I don't personally. And it's because of that, because of Hill not being very good. Model thinks that you should go over 8. Model says total of 8.6. It's a chillier night in Pittsburgh, so I'm not really sure. I think 8's probably a decent total. It'll be mid-70s to start. It'll be upper 60s to close in this one. No wind effect. It'll be very minimal and blowing across. So Model thinks some runs, though, just because of Hill, and says that Contreras, as good as he as much potential as he has, is still just an average pitcher. The Red Sox offense is still pretty good. So Model thinks both teams can score some runs here. Maybe we get to 4-4, and at that point, you've guaranteed an over. So again, Model thinks maybe look at the over here based off of the weaker pitching. Again, like we always talk about, you can count on the Pirates bullpen to give up some runs. So our game plan is the Pirates get up early, get some runs off a Hill, get up to a nice little 3-0 lead. Maybe it's 4-1 by the sixth inning, and then all of a sudden now, the Pirates relievers are going to give up some runs, and that'll, get closer to the total. Maybe the Pirates can hold on at plus odds. It's kind of the way I would see this playing out. But tough to make an investment on this one. I think there's just better opportunities on the board tonight. One of those here at 7:10 Eastern, Tigers to Guardians. Guardians couldn't quite come back and get it for us last night, but I still think that the right side tonight, even at this price of minus 202. It's a B-grade pick for me on Cleveland. The model says it should be Guardians minus 236. Says they should be much bigger favorites. Again, didn't work out last night, but I see it playing out very similar to last night, very similar to that first game on Monday. We've got a pretty big starting pitcher edge here. Average pitcher for the Guardians here with Cal Quantrill, 3.76 ERA. Underlying metrics say it should be a little higher, but again, an average pitcher who should have success against this below-average Tigers offense, and a pretty bad pitcher for the Tigers and Daniel Norris means the Guardians should be able to get some runs across in a lower scoring game. So again, I see it just like last night. I see it just like game one. Again, it didn't work out for us last night, but I see a 4-2 type Guardians win here. Norris is at 5.97 ERA, and the advanced metrics do say it should be one run better than that, but that's still not good. Again, pretty big edge here for the Guardians. They're at home. They've got an edge on the starting pitcher. They got an edge with the relievers. They got an edge on offense. So again, it's a big number at minus 202, but again, model thinks that that's still one that is worth an investment in the long run. Total 7.5, model says 7.3. Again, I would consider this under here. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. It's a low number, so anything can happen. You have to worry about potential extra innings. But again, the Guardians are the much better team. So in general, the way it should play out is they should be up. Like I'm saying, 3-1 late, 4-2, that sort of thing. Should be a lower-scoring game. Guardians should have a lead. Tigers should have a hard time scoring today. Quantrill is decent enough to hold them down, and the rest of those Guardians relievers are pretty solid. So I don't see them scoring much. I think the Guardians win a low-scoring game, and I think, again, minus 200 or so is worth an investment here. B-grade pick for me, not an A-grade pick because we're already investing a lot at those odds, but one that I do think is worth your time here tonight. 7:20 Eastern start time, Mets at the Braves. It'll be around 80 degrees to start, mid-70s here to close. No real wind effect on this one. Max Scherzer versus Jake Odorizzi. The model in this series has really said these two teams are pretty similar, and plus odds makes a lot of sense. Now, it hasn't worked out the first two nights as the Braves have won both games fairly handily here. It's saying relatively consistently. It says the same thing here, that the Mets should be favored today. Obviously, a huge starting pitcher edge with Max Scherzer, one of the best in the game, against a very just average pitcher in Jake Odorizzi. But again, the model here just says plus odds make some sense that these two teams are closer than you think. It's not a huge edge, though. Model says Mets minus 135. I'll take plus 136 on the Braves. Just a lean, just a C-grade pick here. Not one that I think is worth a huge investment. Now, again, if there's a bunch of Mets money that comes in throughout the day, maybe you start thinking the Braves are a little bit more exciting as underdogs here. It's hard to go too heavy against Max Scherzer. He's so good, but again, the Mets aren't going 35-0 in his starts, or abbreviated for injuries, whatever, right? They're not going to win every time he pitches, and the Braves are a good team at home. Just because I'm on the Mets the last 2 days, I've said the whole time, I thought both these teams were really good. I just thought it was about the price. I thought the Braves should be favored in both those first two games. I just thought they were favored by a little bit too much, and they won. Okay, right? It's the same thing here. I think the Mets should be favored, and they might win this one too. I think this is good baseball. I think it's one of the series you want to keep an eye on if you can. It should be more competitive. Those first two games should be more competitive than they were. Of course, losing Walker yesterday in the second, it's nothing in the third inning, and Walker comes out, with an injury, and so that kind of derails that one. Hopefully, starting pitchers stay healthy, and again, it should be a tight game. Obviously, the big question mark here is going to be Odorizzi. Can he keep this Mets offense down? The Braves starters have done that this series. Can he? I don't know. Model thinks it's worth a chance, though, because that it happens enough times that plus 136 offers some value. So I'll be on the Braves. Again, odds not big enough to like more than just with a C grade, though. Model says 8.2 for the total. Total is actually 7.5. Model says that as good as Scherzer is, the Braves should be able to score some runs off of him because that offense is still solid, still a good offense. That's kind of the big question mark there. Obviously, the Mets will score a few off Odorizzi. Model thinks more likely to be a 5-3 type game than a 4-3 type game. Something to keep in mind there. But again, a game that's priced fairly well, I think, at this point. But I think there's just a little bit too high on the Mets. As good as Scherzer is, he's only so much of it. The Braves relievers really good. Braves offense still pretty good. Can hang in there. Got a chance to win this one at home. In a game that might have some weather delays, again, kind of the one tonight that is the most likely to. Again, those southern thunderstorms here in the summer. Something to keep an eye on there. Might be a pop-up storm, might kind of come through, but it shouldn't affect if the game gets played. It just might kind of delay us for 30, 45 minutes like we saw the other night. 7:45 Eastern start time, Rockies at the Cardinals. About 80 degrees to start, lower 70s to close. A slight breeze blowing in, should stay 5 miles an hour or under. A game that the model says the total should be 6.9, so the model likes going under. Under didn't work last night, but likes the under here. Again, a pitcher-friendly ballpark. Thinks it should be a lower-scoring game. 2 above-average pitchers in German Marquez and Jordan Montgomery. Marquez is at 5.08 ERA. That's inflated by Coors. Underlying metrics say it should be in the low 4s. Not great, but still above average. Montgomery, that 3.37 ERA. Underlying metrics say maybe a tiny bit higher, but a pretty good pitcher himself there. Again, the Rockies offense does look a little bit more competent against lefties than righties. I think that's being priced in, though. The model still says the Cardinals should be massive favorites in this game. Model says Cardinals minus 210. I'll take the Cardinals minus 106 with the B grade pick. I was expecting to have a smaller edge on this, given the Rockies against a lefty, but it's like I said, it's like that's being priced in. Everyone's kind of realized that they're a much more dangerous team against lefties. Model still says, even accounting for that the Cardinals should be favored with a number more like minus 210. So again, 196 offers some value here on the Cardinals. That's a side I want to be on. I think the price is short. They have a massive edge everywhere across this game other than starting pitcher, and they still have an edge there because I'd still rather have Montgomery than Marquez. Again, a game that should be low scoring. Model thinks Cardinals and under. I'm on the Cardinals here with a B grade pick, even at a high price. 8:05 Eastern start time. A's at the Rangers. Kind of mentioned yesterday, A's had a chance. I tweeted out I took the Rangers at minus 115. I said it was a B grade pick, like a B minus pick. I wasn't really comfortable with it, but I was like, I guess there's some value there on the Rangers. Other people apparently agreed that price finished more in the minus 130s. I don't know why people were confident backing it at minus 120, minus 125, minus 130. At that point, I thought the price was way out of hand. Sure enough, the Rangers lose. So a lot of people with confidence in the Rangers that I'm not really sure why they were. I think the initial line was priced better than the closing, and that's one of the things I've talked about a lot here. Injuries aside, a lot of times the opening lines are priced just as well as the closing lines. There's not really much of this, wherever the line closes is the valuable point or not. It doesn't really tell you a lot. I don't know what they were thinking backing the Rangers that much. Like I talked about yesterday, right? The Rangers, not a good team. Now, the A's are, of course, terrible, but, just because they fired their manager or whatever, not going to make them a good team. They're still pretty mediocre. And yesterday, going up against a good pitcher in Sears, couldn't get the job done. That's it today. I'll be on the Rangers again. Has nothing to do with anything about them bouncing back, nothing to do with the manager, nothing to do with anything other than just I think that Adam Oller is like the worst starting pitcher in baseball. And that's really all it has to do with. I don't love this Rangers team. I still think they're not very good, but they have a league average offense, and a league average offense against Adam Oller should score a lot of runs. On the other side of the ball, it'll be real interesting because I think as bad as the A's offense is, I think Cole Ragans is just as bad. So that'll be a real question mark, kind of the immovable object meets the, or movable object meets the thing that can't, whatever. I don't know what the phrase is, right? One of those things where it's like neither thing is good, right? But the Rangers should score off of Oller because he's very terrible. Again, both sets of relievers are terrible. It's bad baseball here, but I think 155 is short because the Rangers offense is the difference maker against a terrible pitcher at home. Model says it should be 167. It's not that I like Ragans. It's just this A's team is really bad. And again, Oller is terrible. So I'm on the Rangers here with the B grade pick at minus 155. Again, it's not so much about any bounce back, any manager, any of that. It's just, I don't think this A's team is very good. They used all their good relievers last night, it seems like, dodging bullets left and right, trying to avoid. The Rangers had runners on late in that one, and almost every inning it seemed like using a lot of those relievers makes them a little more ineffective today, maybe unavailable today. So I just think the Rangers are the right side here at this price at minus 155. Again, I think it should be higher than that. Again, really just because I think an average offense or slightly above average offense can get to Adam Oller and score a lot of runs off of him. Again, the model thinks it's priced pretty well. Model says 9.2. Total actually is 9. So model says stay away from that total. That 9 is a pretty good number. 8:10 Eastern start time. Dodgers at the Brewers. Dodgers all of a sudden lost 2 out of 3 here. Now, like we talked about, price on the Dodgers is just way too high. They're still a really good baseball team, but I think we're seeing what we saw with the Dodgers with the Yankees earlier in the season, just unstoppable. and backing him, just blind backing him makes money. But at some point, you got to figure out when to get off that train. And like I said, I think the prices are too high on the Dodgers. And this win streak that they had earlier, we backed them, about half the time, I think. But I still think the price is too high. Brewers plus 158 is an A-grade play for me. I think they got a chance to pull this one off. Tony Gonsolin versus Eric Lauer. Gonsolin's a better pitcher than Lauer. Don't get me wrong here. Gonsolin is a good pitcher. Gets a 90-grade rating. I think he is good. I want to make sure you hear that. However, I don't think he's as good as a 2.24 ERA. Underlying metrics say it should be more in the mid-3s. So good, but I just don't think he's great. He's being priced like he's Clayton Kershaw. He's being priced like he's Justin Verlander, and I just don't think he's at that tier. I think he's good, but I think he's more like Martin Perez, than Framber Valdez, right? So I just think he's, I don't know why I'm going all the lefties here. I think he's good, not great. Lauer, on the other hand, pretty average, 3.64 ERA. Underlying metrics say it should actually be a little bit higher than that, just a run-of-the-mill average pitcher. Obviously, Dodgers offense good. Brewers offense, like we talk about, very hit or miss. You never know what you're going to get from them. But I think they got a chance in this one. Model says it should be Dodgers minus 134. And again, this is giving the Dodgers every boost I can possibly imagine. I've turned it up to 10 to try to figure out how to give the Dodgers every boost I possibly can. If I didn't do that, this number is probably closer to a coin toss game. It's probably more in the minus 120s. This price is too high. It's Brewers or pass, just like it was last night, just like it's been. We're to the point, every night, I think it's basically either fade the Dodgers or just don't play it. And if you don't want to play it, that's fine. Again, you missed out on the last two of the last 3 nights, big plus winner or plus winner with the Royals. And then last night, very short odds on the Brewers here in a game that they had a massive pitching edge. Needed extras, unfortunately, to get it done. Made it a little scary, but still got us to the window here. Same thing. I think it's Brewers or pass. Plus 158 is tremendous value. It's the biggest edge based off of win probability differential between the model's thought and the price that we can get. Biggest edge on the board is right here. I love the Brewers here. I think they got a chance. Don't know who's going to win, but at plus 158, I think the Brewers win enough times to make this a great investment. I think it's worth a look here to see if we want to fade the Dodgers. Model says total of 8.5. Actual total is 8. Probably a total I don't think I'd mess with. I think Brewers just decide to be on. 8:10 Eastern start time, Astros at the White Sox. I already put this up on the website here. The Astros are my play of the day. Second biggest edge on the board, right behind the Brewers here is the Astros. At minus 141, it's an A-grade play model, so it should be Astros minus 161. Biggest thing here is I just don't think Michael Kopech is that good. 3.18 ERA, but I put this on the website here. Really low home run rate. A lot of his fly balls are just staying in the yard. His batting average on balls in play is great as well. Those are things that he's not found the magic formula for success for how to do this. He had league average numbers his first 2 years in the league. And he's going to have league average numbers on average going forward. These are things that pitchers don't really control on average. You go back and you look at the historical seasons, the Pedro Martinez, the Randy Johns, and these guys, the Greg Maddux, this guy have a lot of years, and you look at their batting average on balls in play, and it bounces around. 1 year it'll be 220, the next year it'll be 320. I mean, these guys can't, as good as every year, they just can't control it. It's just random, right? And that kind of tells you how, if your results are good, but doesn't mean that's predictive, right? And that's the thing, is that Kopech's had great results, 3.18 ERA, great results. But again, it's been because the balls that have been hit off of him have mostly turned into outs and mostly haven't gone over the fence. And that's great results for him, good for him, but that's not predictive in general going forward. I think he's just an average pitcher. He's a guy also that the pitch counts can get up on. The Astros team that can work pitch counts, get him out of there, get to the bullpen. This sets up really well for the Astros. Framber Valdez is a fantastic pitcher. 2.73 ERA. The underlying metrics have him a tiny bit higher than that, but the projection is that his ERA should be over a full run better than Kopech. So, I mean, you have a pretty massive edge here for the Astros, starting pitcher-wise, and again, an edge on offense. The White Sox offense does do better against lefties, but Framber is a lefty that's of a different caliber. White Sox, I tend to crush mediocre lefties, tend to crush average lefties. The top-tier lefties, though, might be a little bit different story. Again, the model knows that the White Sox hit lefties better. The model's accounting for that, and it still says The Astros win this game almost 62% of the time, and a 62% winner at minus 141 is a great investment. Love the Astros here. In a game the model says should be totaled at 7.9. Actual total is 8, so the model says total is spot on. Nice weather there in Chicago, mid-70s to start, around 70 degrees to close, and winds mostly blowing across. So just a nice night there in Chicago. No wind effect, no real temperature effect there either. One late game for us, 9:45 Eastern start time. Diamondbacks at the Giants. A chilly one in San Francisco. I know you're shocked there, around 60 degrees for most of the game. Wind blowing out, but again, shouldn't affect things too much in that ballpark. Zach Davies versus Carlos Rodon. Talked about this at the top of the show. Yesterday the Diamondbacks just couldn't hold on for us. That's the problem with both of these teams. Their bullpens are both terrible. Giants bullpen looking good the last couple of days. I don't know if that's about them or more about the fact that the Diamondbacks offense can be pretty terrible. Diamondbacks offense gets a ding facing a lefty as they're pretty left-handed heavy. Giants offense gets a boost facing a right-hander as they're pretty left-handed heavy. I think that's the difference in this game. That's why I'm on the Giants here at minus 208. But I don't think it's priced where it's really advantageous to jump on it. Model says it should be Giants minus 200. So if you get a number that starts with a 1, I'm starting to get more excited about this. But at 208, we're paying a premium that I don't really think is worth too heavy of an investment here. Giants probably the right side. Rodon obviously light years better than Zach Davies. Not much to say about either pitcher. I mean, their stats are kind of what they are. Rodon's really good. Davies isn't. Diamondbacks offense much worse than the Giants offense. Again, both bullpens terrible. But Rodon's a guy who I feel like can struggle sometimes on teams that can work the pitch count and get him out of there early, get to that bullpen. But I mean, Rodon should kind of mow through these weaker Diamondback hitters. Again, a lot of Diamondback lefties as well should favor Rodon, and or the Diamondbacks are going to have to now play a couple of the righties that are weaker, keep some of their lefties on the bench. So, I mean, I think this is advantage Giants here. They should be massive favorites. Minus 200 or minus 208, it's just too much to be excited about. Again, if it drops down to the 100s, maybe now it's more of an exciting play. Maybe you're talking about a B grade. Again, model thinks 200, so at 208, only a lean. It's the side I'd rather be on, but the premium is so high, it's just not worth the heavy investment, in my opinion. I'll recap the 8 plays. Only got 2 of them for you today. Got the Brewers at plus 158 at home against the Dodgers, and the Astros at minus 141 at the White Sox. Some days we get a lot of A plays. Some days we only get 2. It's the way it goes. A lot of good B plays, though. And a lot of games to keep an eye on where the numbers move. And a lot of times even when I start recording, by the time I upload it, the numbers moved a lot. So depending on how the number moves, might open up some edges for you on some of these games. Again, it's all about price. You're playing teams and prices. You have to consider who you think is going to win, but it's also about the price. If you're just saying, I think this team's going to win and laying minus 180, it's not a good long-term strategy, right? A lot of y'all know this a lot, preaching to the choir for a lot of you. But again, it's all about the price. And there's some dogs that might be worth it to you, especially if a bunch of favorite money comes in. Some dogs might be worth a look in a handful of these games that I've got leans on here. So a lot of interesting angles to look at today, a lot of baseball throughout the day. Hopefully you can make some money somewhere. That's all I have for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. Reminder to check out the Google Sheet for model picks, projections, and results. You can find that link and more at the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button to ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel is dropped right into your feed. I'll see you tomorrow. And until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.